editor-in-chief of an independent media on geopolitics and military. We will face today a very important argument because it's the key point of this Yerevan dialogue and even of our times, because AI does not affect only cybersecurity, even if it's one of main use in this area, but even institutions, finance, elections, telecoms, public services, and all the strategic competition that is going on in our days, and the news that every day reach us underline this tremendous potential instrument. We'll discuss this panel with our guests, that starting from Nerses Yeritzian, the chairman of the Information System Authority of Armenia. And after him, we will have a talk with Bassant Hassib, is assistant professor of political science at the European University of Egypt. Then Hararat Hukasian is first deputy chairman of management board of Unibank Armenia. And last but not least is Janne Talas, is chief executive officer of CMI, Martti Ahtisaari Peace Foundation of Finland. So we'll face many aspects, from institutions to financial actors and to diplomatic people in this field of AI. Let's start with Mr. Yeritzian. How do you achieve cybersecurity resilience at scale in the era of AI?
Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity and the invitation. The way the question and the title is put, I like it very much, because most of the institutions and the general public is focusing on the benefits and the disruptive, basically, feature of AI. Very little focus on security and the challenges that the AI also brings with its implementation. And on the challenges, it's either the extreme kind of case of considering the collapse or nothing. But there are too many aspects, and then especially the cybersecurity considerations are really critical. In the AI era, AI itself is compressing the threat exploitation life cycle. It has become much shorter because attacks are becoming faster, more adaptive, and increasingly automated, reducing the response window for the states and different institutions. AI has also changed the nature of attacks. The primary target is no longer systems or data, but affecting the trust in the society. Like with AI solutions, if cybersecurity is not in place, then the entire societies could be modeled and manipulated. And there's a term, social fabric. The social fabric of the society could be interfered in big deals. Resilience must shift from system, therefore, to protecting the service continuity. And we have seen that with digitalization, those services become vulnerable. And it's not about the financial gain, which is less organized at such. It's more organized, basically attacking the systems and integrity of the systems. Like recent cases, especially in the region, on election systems, financial systems, payment systems, and public services, basically at large. The other point I would like to make, which will bring to my conclusions why we have to implement cybersecurity at scale in the AI era, and it cannot be fragmented, is that the cybersecurity incident now scale into governance risks. It's not a technical issue anymore. Failure in critical systems translate directly into institutional and economic disruption, and also basically disruption in the social fabric, as I mentioned. Therefore, secure by design as AI governance ecosystem itself has become a cybersecurity issue. Resilience must be engineered at the scale by design. Otherwise, it becomes more expensive, if not impossible, basically, to address the cybersecurity issues. Embedded into cybersecurity governance beyond the infrastructure across cloud, data, and AI enablers. I'll bring an example here, basically, why it has become governance issue, because the attackers are more mobile. I've been dealing with counter-terrorist financing and basically fighting against money laundering. And again, the adversaries are much faster. They don't follow the rules. Deploying technology, organizing the work is much faster than on the government or institutional side, because you have to follow rules. And in many cases, those rules are restricted, and like ethical, human rights, and also some physical constraints are engaged, therefore would delay the reaction of the normal institutions. And this is why it has become quite crucial that in normal times we have to pay attention to the governance and the institutional setup rather than basically focusing on technology, etc. Technology is evolving, could be tackled, technical issues could be solved, but then integrity of the systems, institutions, and the societies might take much more longer, basically, to restore if for technical or other kind of reasons it fails to meet the standards.
Okay, we can.
And the final point is like disinformation and cyber attacks are no parallel threat anymore. And we see increasingly that these things, misinformation, deep fake, disinformation, work hand in hand to amplify the cybersecurity risk. Like cybersecurity attackers create the fact, then the deep fakers and then misinformation hacktivists, I would say, and attackers amplify the fact, which might have no impact, become a major issue with large impact on the society and the institutions itself.
Thank you very much. I will now give the floor to Professor Asseb, and I would like to ask how the current war in the Middle East has increased the importance of cyber defense, infrastructure resilience, state reputation, and stakeholder trust.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Andrea. Nelson, he sets the foundation of what I'm going to talk about, actually, so thank you. The current Middle Eastern war has demonstrated that a shift in how war is conducted, how modern warfare is conducted, from standalone cyber operations and AI-driven drones to a full integration and full data-driven warfare in what we call AI-powered data factories in supporting military operations for the first time. And this actually increased the significance of building cyber defense, resilience, state reputation, and maintaining stakeholder confidence. And here, cyber defense became the backbone of this AI-driven warfare. It's not only about protecting networks or ICT networks, it became actually an enabler to the operations of the military systems. Systems like, for example, the Israeli Defense Force MATSPEN unit, okay, where actually it illustrates this kind of fully driven AI systems that I'm talking about. This system actually integrates several platforms, like the Maestro. They have their own LLM system that's called Genie, other also platforms, and in a way that creates a system of systems to speed targeting, to have a more precision and synchronization. And this creates an unprecedented level of synchronization and speed and precision of targeting that have never been witnessed before. So here we can see that within seconds, you can see a flow of information between the commanders of the military and the frontline forces, okay, within seconds, okay? And this actually explained how they have managed to have such precision of attacks. And this adds to what we call the layering of intelligence capabilities, where cyber power became a core element or part of those layers, which explains why or how they have managed to target certain officials, especially the Iranian top officials, in such a speed and such precision. So we have first the layer of human intelligence, in which, of course, the CIA and Israel, they share together. And second, we have the layer of pre-existing cyber espionage through access to surveillance cameras or traffic cameras. And then you have the layer of this AI data analysis of the intelligence they gathered through systems like the LLM systems like Claude, as we have heard before. And then we have also the layer of signals intelligence, which actually managed to disrupt mobile towers, okay, in order to prevent top officials from receiving warnings during the war. And this shows how cyber capabilities or cybersecurity is not only a matter of disruption of services, it became a core element of intelligence gathering. And this shifts cyber defense, as I mentioned earlier, from being only a protection tool for ICT networks to become a core element or a core tool for national security priority. And states here, as Nersin mentioned, they don't only focus on cybersecurity, they focus on resilience, infrastructure resilience, as a second step after cybersecurity. And in this data-driven warfare, this infrastructure is not only a target, it's actually the foundation of military functioning, the functioning of government services, business services and sectors, and the stability of the society, as he mentioned. For example, when we look at the cloud infrastructure in the war that we are witnessing right now, we can see that the American cloud infrastructures in the region, whether it's in the Gulf or in Israel, okay, have managed actually to give them some advantage, or have been used in the operations of the military to target those officials and to actually use them in the war in Gaza previously. And in retaliation, Iran actually clearly stated that, okay, I'm going to target those cloud infrastructures in the region, okay? And we have seen examples of such disruption to powers to these cloud infrastructures in a couple of countries in the Gulf area. And the resilience of internet infrastructure specifically became a core element of such conflict in the Middle East. Because when you cut the internet services or you disrupt it, what you are creating is that you are enabling disinformation, because access to first-hand data, whether it's images, videos, or live streams of the atrocities or what's happening on ground in the war, they stop when you don't have this kind of internet connectivity. And this makes it difficult for actually fact-checkers to conduct independent investigations of what's happening on ground. And when you have a spread of such disinformation, what happens is that you are undermining states' credibility and their control over information. And this causes public panic and causes public mistrust in the government or state institutions. And the most obvious example here is cyber attacks that are actually aiming or have conducted or designed to cause public panic. We have seen a lot of state-sponsored groups that launch cyber attacks just to cause panic. For example, when you send a fake text message to civilians, okay, and falsely warning them about an attack on bomb shelters, terrorist attack on bomb shelters, okay, and this text messages are spoofed as if it's coming from the government. Or you have on the other side, for example, some kind of hackers that are, or state-sponsored hackers that target infrastructure, critical infrastructure of the countries, from water services to transportation, in order to cause fear and panic among the citizens. And the other layer here is that state reputation and stakeholder confidence is caused not only by this kind of disruption, okay? It actually shows that cyber power here and building your cyber offensive and defensive capabilities act as a deterrence first, and also act as a way to maintain such reputation among your stakeholders. And this is important for the countries in the region. For example, for the GCC states, okay, cybersecurity is important to maintain their identity as the main technological hubs in the region. And thereby maintain confidence of stakeholders to invest in the country. And also, if you look at Israel, okay? Cybersecurity and cyber power in general is part of its digital identity. Domestically, it could act as, especially in the current war in Gaza and the current war with Iran, it acts, or it tries to compensate some of the reputation damage among the public and the portrayal of the regime, okay, to the public, which might have been affected because of the course of the war in Gaza, and also it acted as a commercial asset internationally. And also for Iran, this actually acted as a way to show to their citizens that I still have the power, I still in control by having this kind of retaliation through cyber attacks, asymmetric retaliation through cyber attacks.
We'll continue our round and we'll go back to this point even with the second one. I will give the floor to Mr. Ararat Hukasian, the first deputy chairman of management board of Unibank of Armenia. And how is AI and the digital transformation changing the financial cost of security, resilience, and governance? Because at the end, it's always about money.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. Yes, it's always about money, and I believe that probably this information started to happen first time when the first contract was written and prepared. So this is something which is typical for human nature, but what makes the difference and why we are talking about cybersecurity, resilience, and the threats which are coming from this information so many times, and let's say the attention, the focus is increasing because from a single manual intervention attempts, it has been transferred into an industrial system. There is a study which suggests that in 2026, the size of total cost of, let's say, putting up campaigns, so-called trollings, is reaching 26 trillion US dollars. That's an amount which is out of any imagination. We are talking about at any single time around 1,200 campaigns happening. This is more than 700% increase. And that is basically destroying what my colleague Nersa Sierichan mentioned, is the trust. Society's trust towards the institutions, towards the financial organizations which are supposed to protect your assets. So what does it mean in reality? And why it is so critical? Because apart from the scale of disinformation attacks, not only scale is growing, but also the speed. It takes less than a minute for a financial market to react to a piece of information which is false, but it has been released, let's say, in a way that people believe that this is coming from a credible source. So it takes less than a minute for market to react. For human intervention, for human to detect that this is a false information, it will require from minutes up to hours. So to some extent, that makes human intervention obsolete. So we cannot fight against that level and that speed, relying on traditional, standard, conventional methods which were used. So what does it mean? I'm not here to, let's say, to draw a picture of Armageddon and say, let's think that is the end of the war. No. The other side of equation, the cybersecurity techniques, methodology, and the layers which people are putting together and organizations, it's also becoming more complex, more complicated, sophisticated, and capable of handling situations. For example, one of the architectural methods which is called, which is used very frequently by financial institutions, it requires multi-layer architecture. The first one is the perimeter. What does it mean? It relies on predicting threats, narratives which are happening around the financial system, and picks up the ones which might contain a single hint or single suggestion that this is coming from a, let's say, false source. So that is so-called perimeter layer. So we need to always, it's like in old let's say, in Middle Ages to put up the external wall around the city. The second level is about organizational resilience, which is inside the organization. We need to build up capacities to fight against possible attack. Those capacities are built by having a preemptive procedures, policies. So in other words, to simulate situations and be ready when this happens, you just hit the right button or call the right people and they will take the actions which was predefined longer time before this happened. Not necessarily all of that can be correct, but it is better than nothing. Because if we will not have that organizational resilience, procedures and policies in place, and we will think that when attack will happen, we will take action, we lost already the war against those who are acting not in a good faith. And the third and most important probably is the intelligence integration, which means all attacks which are happening, information which is gathered at financial institutions, it has to be regularized, standardized, and passed to the center, being a national center or regulator, where all of that will be maintained as a database for building up the next layer of expertise, which will help us to build up the parameters, what we need to do. For example, what was the reason that this attack was successful but the other one failed? So to learn, and that is what we call it, building intelligence infrastructure in place. So this is a very serious challenge for the humanity, for the financial system, because it really destroys the trust, and the financial sector is built on a trust. I think that's it at this point.
Thank you very much. Let's finish the first round with Jan Talas, that has a huge diplomatic and experience, and even in cooperation. And the question is, how can digital technology support conflict mediation and resolution, and what are their limits?
Thank you. Thank you for Yerevan Dialogue for having us and me here. This is a great pleasure, and thank you for all coming here after lunch, second day. We much appreciate your showing up. Hey, as I'm in a podium, I may do something that I wanted to do. Hey, would you put the hand up for the people who have been subject to Signal or WhatsApp hack in the latest? Okay, good. So this is, yeah, okay, there it's going around, and that's the reality now, especially I think in Signal. I think I have maybe 3 points I would like to make. My first point is a little bit, and maybe as my background, I am running a mediation, one of a big global mediation organization that is active also in this region, but also I do have a background as a cyber ambassador for cyber diplomacy. So I have a kind of two perspectives on this. I think my first point is that we have to always keep in mind the big picture. It's easy and it's important to discuss the cybersecurity and the problems and the challenges what we have. But I think at the same time, we have heard it in the financial sector, we have heard the developments at the war fighting, but the reality is that the digital promise is huge. It is a kind of positive thing that happens to humanity. The stuff that we can now do, you can apply for a loan digitally, you can do all kinds of things. It is incredible, and it has happened very fast. So I think my first point is that let's keep in mind that the digital transformation change is a net positive. This is something that would improve our life and kind of the lives of the future generations. And I think the real issue is look to kind of secure and guarantee it, to make it as smooth, but don't get into the idea that the kind of securitization is the kind of driving force. The driving force is really the kind of opportunity for the human being on commerce, on finance, on kind of across the board. So I think that's an important point, and that needs to be kind of appreciated, because we start from the cybersecurity position. My second point is something that we deal every day. My organization, CMI, Martti Ahtisaari Peace Foundation, digital domain is a new domain for conflict. Conflicts now happen in a kind of in our real domains, but also in the digital domain. That's the reality. What it really means, it means that there was a thinking that the conflicts were somewhere over there, far away. Not anymore. They are very close to us. If I think of what happened in Gaza, every day I went to work in Helsinki, I saw the university students kind of camping outside, and really the wars are waged, or the wars and the conflicts are unfolding in the digital realm, and that is something that has really changed the business we are doing, the mediation and the conflict resolution business. And you just look at what happens in between US and Iran, that there is more digital action than there is a kinetic action right now. That's the reality. Though, kind of what this means for those guys like us, that we try to find the solutions for these conflicts. First of all, you have to understand and adjust what is happening, that this is the reality, that conflicts do not happen only on the ground here, but there is a kind of digital dimension of the conflict. The digital, and the reality is that the digital realm only foments conflicts. There are lots of Twitter wars. It used to be a Twitter. I guess X wars sounds stupid. There are lots of known Twitter wars. Have you ever come across with the Twitter peace? No. So I think that proves my point that the social media is made for built to polarize and make things just simply polarize. I think that's how the algorithms works. And I don't hold my breath for Twitter or X pieces. So that's something that we have to recognize. But at the same time, and I'm looking clearly from the conflict resolution perspective, that is something that we consider very important. It is that how to resolve the conflict. And I think that we come into the conclusion that the digital is another domain for human action, and the conflicts are between human beings. So you have to address the ramifications, the implications, and the fomentation and the kind of activity in the digital domain. But at the same time, it is quite difficult in the digital domain to find solutions. In order to find a resolution for conflicts, if I think of in this region, it requires people sitting together, people talking to each other, and that's still the only way. I think we can discuss more of the technical aspects in the next rounds, but I think that's the only way. I think it boils down to my third and final point, what this is about. It's ultimately because conflict resolution, disagreements are between the human beings and they unfold in different domains. Trust is the key issue. I think it's in the title and not by accident, and I think all of us have mentioned that. The trust is a crucial element, and it is built by human interaction. Trust is, you cannot technically create that. There are ways, you have the transparency, and trust is also, it's crucial how you do things. It's not what you do, it's what you do, how you do your defenses, but how you do it. And I think trust is something that is fundamental in all of conflict resolution and also cybersecurity. And maybe I will wrap up in the reference that coming from the Nordic Finn, coming from Finland, the high trust societies. And I think it is very important that the societies, that it's a societal aspect or factor. It is not the technical thing. It is, you can have a technical means to support it, or but you have to create it with the education and how the people interact and how the social institutions work. That creates the bedrock of the trust that needs to be there in the center. So the technologies are crucial and important, but I think we need to keep in mind that this trust needs to be fostered between humans, and we have to make sure that there are no technological problems and hiccups that actually start to, because when it's really difficult to, we know as a kind of conflict resolution organization, the most difficult thing is to bring back the trust between the human being in the societies. And so the technologies need to really be geared so that we don't get into that situation. Thank you.
Okay, let's start a quick second round, and with Mr. Yeritzian, let's ask, is the need for local and global collaborations and partnerships increasing to address AI challenges?
Yep. Basically, I should mention a package of 3 important laws. This package was adopted in December 2025, covering the Cybersecurity, Public Information Act, and the law on the Information Systems Regulatory Authority. Therefore, the authority I'm presenting here is only a few months old. But why I mention this legal package is to basically echo the previous kind of speakers, that we shouldn't forget about the progress that digitalization is bringing, but we have to make sure that cybersecurity serves as an enabler, not something you go and fight against any kind of progress and development, but you perceive it as an enabler. Therefore, we have adopted the European best standards as part of our legal requirements, with the focus being an enabler. Cybersecurity is an enabler. Therefore, for businesses and the critical infrastructure, we try to work pretty closely with them, that they didn't perceive this as a cost center, but perceived as an investment into their customer base, expanding their services, reducing their overall cost, because they invest into cybersecurity and they reduce the cost of failure of their digital systems. And the other important kind of principle or principles in the law are the coordination and collaboration. And this is where it comes, at what level and with whom. Internationally, you need to collaborate, because network is a global thing, right? And then if something happens in the network, it doesn't recognize any borders, and the IP addresses are globally controlled. Therefore, this worm could flow anywhere it thinks through, even inadvertently. Basically, the attacker might not intend the country, but it may appear in your case. Therefore, getting early information, working together with other kind of authorities, especially with friendly countries, etc., is about preventing things, although many incidents are not possible. Therefore, you have to focus reducing the impact and the cost of those incidents. But to get this international collaboration means you have to give something out as well. Therefore, that requires you have pretty good trusted internal collaboration with your critical infrastructure, that they report it. Not the law insists and mandates them to report the incidents, but it doesn't happen automatically. Like, we have to trust each other that information, the critical the infrastructure shares with us, we bring value, some value added, and then they benefit also from our international collaboration. Therefore, our strategic goal is to position Armenia as a center of excellence, both for local kind of ecosystem and also globally, basically. This is how both sides will meet each other. Through us, we become invisible. And that's how basically we built the supervisory ecosystem, because we try to extensively implement these exercises, cyber drills, as we call, because this is how people learn from each other and also learn from the global experience. There are no written rules you can put and then things would happen. It's a permanent learning process, and I think we have to put this in mind. two other quick points, and then I'm done on this. Shared situational analysis are critical. Currently, we are heading towards the election cycle in Armenia. Therefore, we get lots of intelligence information from all of our other places, which has the greatest value, basically. We ourselves wouldn't be able to achieve that level of intelligence rather than we get from other experiences. Therefore, this shared situation awareness and analysis, doing joint exercises, sharing with information is also critical. And the final thing is we have talked about different levels of architecture, how you design your systems. Therefore, we have to focus on standards. Like, you can design and operationalize IT systems in any way you want, but if you follow the standards, then more countries, more systems outside of your country understand you, and then you could exchange with the information. In a way, systems become interoperable. Networks are open, and if your systems are interoperable, then basically you'll benefit in that network from others' experiences and also share your own experience for the global good and security and safety. And I think this two-way collaboration internally and also externally would capitalize and reduce the cost of compliance in the country, because both sides would see the benefit, and this is how we would turn cybersecurity from a cost center to an investment opportunity, expanding businesses and building large global marketplaces that bring kind of lots of profit to the shareholders, but also lots of benefits to the society.
Thank you, Mr. Yuritsian. Professor Seb, how states in the Middle East can build and collaborate for cyber defense and resilience while preserving technological sovereignty?
Thank you, Andrea. I will just build on what Nersin and Jan said about the capabilities. Yeah. But first, I have to highlight the importance of technological sovereignty before I go into the strategies to be followed. When you over-rely or when you have dependency on foreign technologies, you don't only open your systems to technological threats like cyber espionage, but you also have another kind of threat which actually hampers or weakens your sovereignty. And the Middle Eastern states is no difference from other states in this domain. And this could be, this hampering of sovereignty could be caused by being actually subject to the policies of the countries who own the technology. This is first. And second, for example, in the domains of the military or defense domains, the most damning risk of losing control over your own systems in the military, especially AI-driven weapons. Okay? So here, technology, specifically AI, is actually becoming a sovereignty issue. Because, for example, cloud infrastructure, when it's actually done externally, okay, this actually causes an issue when it comes to data sovereignty and data security. And those actually who manages, or the states who manages to own the technologies, they are actually increasing their power in shaping international norms. They have leverage here, okay? They have leverage in shaping norms internationally, okay? Cybersecurity standards internationally, trade and export regimes when it comes to digital services and technologies, and also they control pricing, okay? And they gain the economic benefits out of all of these technologies. So the goal here for the Middle Eastern states is to build their own technological capabilities, build their cyber defense and resilient capabilities, while at the same time safeguarding their digital sovereignty. But the problem here is that building the digital sovereignty is not an easy thing, because states, they often lag behind big technological companies when it comes to resources financially, when it comes to the innovation, and when it comes to talent. So what states in the Middle East or anywhere in the world needs to do is to have this kind of comprehensive strategy, a multi-level strategy that is actually grounded or based on multi-stakeholder engagement. You engage people from the government, you engage civil society representatives, you engage the private sector companies, put them on board when you design these kind of strategies on all levels, on the national level, on the regional level, and on the international level. So these kind of strategies would involve what? As Nirsin here said, and as also Jan mentioned, first is to build your own local expertise. And building local expertise means that you have to invest in the education with regards to cybersecurity, AI, quantum computing, blockchain technologies, and also offer some kind of scholarships designed to these programs. And also to support research and development institutions, innovation hubs, your own digital startups by giving them financial incentives and grants, by giving them tax incentives, okay? Because you want to retain your talents at home. You don't want them to go and run and work elsewhere, because in some countries in the Middle East, because some of the low salaries or the poor economic conditions or the high experts for digital devices, they make those kind of people or talent go and work elsewhere outside of the country. So what we have here is a brain drain in the cyber domain. Another thing is that you have to promote public sector digital literacy by actually partnering with private sector companies, local companies that you have, and those local digital startups, and having programs to train your public sector employees and about cybersecurity, about cyber hygiene, and so on. The second thing is to encourage the domestic production of technology products and cybersecurity products to actually prevent this kind of dependency on foreign technology and actually build or produce products that are locally adapted to your own local conditions and local needs. And this can be achieved by public-private partnerships that I mentioned earlier. And also it could be achieved by establishing a more inviting and more enabling business and regulatory environments for those startups and for your own technology companies to thrive, okay? Because some of the regulatory frameworks are crippling for certain digital startups, especially the young startups and the young SMEs in your country. For example, you have the high levels of bureaucracy and procedures. It's actually annoying not only for your local companies, but also for foreign investors, okay? You have some kind of regulation that actually, instead of focusing on innovation and producing secure by design tools and products, they focus more on compliance, restrictive by focusing on compliance. The other thing is that you focus on regulation that stimulates competition. You open your market to public and private companies as well, and try to avoid the kind of public monopolies that most of the countries have, and also to have some kind of mechanism to prevent any kind of anti-competitive behaviors in the market. The other thing is that you have to update your own national laws and regulations and make them not only state-centric. We're not only talking about state-centric cybersecurity. At the core, you have to talk about human cybersecurity, okay? And here, it's important to include in the governance process civil society organizations, because those are the ones who are going to guarantee that those regulations are going to have transparency, there's going to be accountability, and there's going to be trust from the public when you have this kind of human-centric regulations. The other thing is that you need to promote a community-level initiatives for digital literacy and for awareness about what is the regulations that I have at home, what is my rights, what is data protection regulations that I have. And the other thing is to strengthen regional cooperation, as Nirsin mentioned, okay? Through, for example, the shared military exercises and the training the personnel, the military personnel. Through, for example, as Ararat mentioned, the cyber threat intelligence sharing, okay, between countries in the region. Okay? And the last thing that I want to mention is actually to be more active in shaping international norms around state responsibility in the cyber domain and building a framework to have an ethical use of artificial intelligence. And in this department specifically, we can utilize cyber diplomacy tools where diplomats, they act as cyber norm entrepreneurs in these domains in order to create a shared understanding of norms and regulation, what is a responsible use of technology and what is not. Thank you.
Thank you, Hasib. And the second round now reaches again Mr. Hukasian. And I would like to underline that starting from the local skills that the professor just talked about, Armenia had a huge tradition in technology since the Soviet era. So I would like to understand what are the opportunities and the area of development for from the spread of AI and digital technologies.
Thank you. Well, I would imagine that 150 years ago, in a small European country or a town, you could have a financial institution bank and interact only with two groups of clients, depositors, and borrowers. And the only thing which you needed were good, skilled people inside the building to meet them, to greet them, to write down the agreement, etc. And one tough guy, security, who will be standing inside if somebody comes in. Today, that picture doesn't work, clearly. We all know about it. It's about multi-layer, multifunctional, across the industry, and all of that is because of the speed, scale of AI development, digital transformation, and the threats which are coming. You are correct mentioning about what are the opportunities in Armenia, and those are already taking place. For example, almost all financial institutions in Armenia are now working based on a credit scoring tools of different, let's say, level or with different complexity. What we can expect more? First of all, it's my own opinion, and I think my colleagues will probably share that. We will see more of cross-sector cooperation. For example, the banking will not be relying only on its own expertise and staff. If you want to have a good security system to have a proper resilience and to be able to defend your database, you should not hire the best programmer in the city. Because by the time that programmer will be your staff member and will write a program, that will be outdated already. You should sign a contract with the best company in the city. Because those are professionals and they are updating their systems, skills every day. So it's about outsourcing, not only by scale, but also by depth. A lot of transactions and activities which were traditionally, historically believed that they should stay within the four walls of the financial institution because there is a confidentiality issue, there is a responsibility for keeping customer data. Those must be, I'm not saying should be, must be outsourced because you cannot work alone. Of course, there is a possibility of some information outflow, but that is manageable. First of all, you need to pick up the best companies who are able to provide you the best services. So that's about outsourcing, in my opinion, is one thing which is coming to be more and more actively used. Today, in Armenia, we already see that a lot of financial institutions are outsourcing their HR functions. They will be shortly the next level, outsourcing your critical data analysis, even for credit scoring, even for collection. All those are going to be used because that will be cheaper, faster, and more, I would say, more more correctly reflecting the current situation. We already see that even in AI, there is a second, if I may say, I'm not expert on AI, but there is a second generation of AI, so-called generative, which is coming with a lot of agents. That's a specific function which comes with AI. That means that everything needs analysis, reviews. Before speaking up something or before making a decision about the product design or the next action to be taken, you need to do a serious analysis, scenario modeling, to evaluate what are the implications. And all those skills must not be your own employees. You might outsource it and to give it to others. So in my opinion, we are going to have a very interesting period in our lives when interaction between companies, between different sectors of economy will grow up. And if previously, there is one thing which bankers, they like to speak always about, cost cutting. So from cost cutting, they will be moving to strategic cost initiative. It sounds a little bit more, let's say, modern or interesting, but in fact, there is a real meaning in that because you are not just by cutting your cost by firing 2 or 3 employees or not investing. It's more about different thing. If you don't invest today, you will be investing 10 times more tomorrow. For example, if you are investing in a system, it's not only about cutting your staff cost, because it looks that you are reducing the cost, but at the end of the day, you will be investing more in systems which will require more regular investments. Probably one CapEx and a lot of OpEx throughout the years. So that is the other change which will happen to the financial sector. So let's work together and meet that brilliant future, because there will be more cooperation and more opportunities. And quoting my friend, Mr. Yerichyan, which was saying is with the opportunities which are coming. If we see that our car is a main source of pollution, we do not break the car. We just buy a new one, better one, which consumes less petrol and keeps the environment safer.
Thank you very much. Let's conclude the second round with Mr. Talas. And I would like to ask something about the modern conflicts. How have interstate wars and cyber operations changed the landscape?
Thank you. I think we don't have that much time. I'm looking forward for your questions, so I'll try to be very brief. Only 2 points. First, for the Basant, continuing the discussion, and I think the second more on the Ararat, because I was inspired because he described what happens in the banking sector. So I'll try to describe what happens in the mediation sector in the future when AI comes. But I'm starting with the what has happened in the conflicts, and I think Basant had very well described them. I would the process I would call weaponization of everything. What we have seen the energy has been weaponized, finance has been weaponized, migration has been weaponized, environment has been weaponized, and now you see the elements of technological dependence or technology being weaponized. So we are in the world that it is shaped by state-to-state violence or war or action, that states are engaging others and using all kind of domains, all tools they have to influence on the others. And that is something that is, you can clearly see in the cyber sector, that I see what is the most important driver force is state actors coming into a cyber kind of domain. And I think they are the most difficult actors because they have basically unlimited resources. They have access to LLMs, kind of quite mythos level, 0-day kind of vulnerability. So we are talking about it. It's a different. My point is a different thing to talk of cyber criminals and the states engaging in a cyber activity. And I think it's in the UN documents. It's very clear that, for example, North Korea has been identified as a state that involves, as a state, this kind of activities in the UN, public UN reports. So that's something that is really changing the rules of the game when you have states using massive resources and influencing others, and it's like it's a war, and I think that's something what intrigues me also is international law, because of course in the cyber world there's lots of discussion that you have. I'm talking about the state action here. There are rules of the war that applied in the armed conflict, but there is stuff that happens below the armed conflict. What you can do, and there are different rules that apply for that. And I think what we have seen, for example, after 22, after war in Ukraine, it just now, before that there was a discussion what you can do below the armed conflict. Now it's also what you can do above armed, what the cyber war means as a part of a war. We see that with what we see unfolding in Iran. Just to give you an example from legal point of view, if it's a Ukrainian hacker who attacks a Russian bank, could be seen as a legitimate, if there is a war between these two countries, legitimate fighter. But if Armenian hacker does the same kind of activity that is illegal under the international law. And so there are elements that you have to be, that kind of things are changing. And I'm not sure that our international law is kind of at pace with it. And that's something that I see is it, but I think it all stems from the fact that the states are more involved. And this is closer to the war, as we have heard from the previous speakers. But
I apologize, but
yeah.
we are run out of
I will say 2 words about, because I was inspired what Ararat said, how the AI will be used in the mediation. I think 2 things. First, it will make the human dialogues better. It will not replace the human agency, but think of if you discuss a straight with the negotiators, you could be with the AI project what certain solutions would mean in real time on a trade, and that would be something significant. And the second thing, you can bring lots of more people into these dialogues and build the trust with the larger group of people with the digital means. But I rest my case. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you very much. I really give a thank to all the speakers and all of you. I thank to this panel, but the time is over and we have to leave the floor. Thank you.